Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing a TBR 5-star prediction tour that I did about 2 years ago. So in that video, I went through my entire TBR and I predicted which books would be 5-star reads for me. And I have finally read all of the books in that tour that I predicted to be 5 stars. And not many of them were. But anyways, jumping right in to the books that I thought would be 5-star reads. The first one was Moxie by Jennifer Matthew. I had hoped that this one would be a 5-star read since it was kind of a feminist vibes book. Although I do think I had some reservations and those held to be true. While I did enjoy this one, it was not a 5-star read for me. I'm pretty sure I rated it like 3.5. It was enjoyable. I did like the feminist themes that were in it, but it wasn't an all-time favorite, which is kind of my standard for 5 stars. So this one was like a tentative 5-star prediction. The next two technically were much more firm, and that was the second and the third books in the Chaos Walking trilogy. I had already read the first one and rated that one at 5 stars, and so I was pretty confident that the second and the third book would also be 5 stars. But unfortunately they were not. I definitely still enjoyed them, but not nearly as much as the first one, and I think I rated the second and the third one both like 4.5 and 4 stars. Moving on, I have one that I did not predict would be 5 stars, but ended up being 5 stars, so I wanted to include that as well. I wanted to include books that were on that TBR tour that I didn't predict to be 5 stars if they did end up being 5 stars, which was just one, and that was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. In the 5-star prediction TBR tour, I did talk about this one, and I said that while it seemed to be very popular and I love the cover, I didn't think it would be 5 stars for me personally because it seemed a little more science fiction-y, a little bit more outer spacey, which is not usually super my cup of tea, but I loved this one. It was so action-packed. I loved so many of the characters. I'm so excited to continue with the series. I have heard that it does kind of go downhill a bit after the first book, so I'm still not confident that the next one will be 5 stars, but this one definitely was, and it was a massive surprise. After that, I have the book that was like tied as the most secure, most exciting 5-star prediction on that TBR tour, and that was Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I had had my eye on this one for years. The cover is so good and the concept sounded so interesting. This is a dystopian in which death has been defeated by the human race. Humans don't die anymore. And so in order to keep population under control, there are Scythes who are ordered with the job of killing people. And then the computer program that's able to bring people back to life just doesn't do that. So really interesting concept, beautiful cover. The author, one of my favorite books of all time was Downsiders by Neal Shusterman. As a kid, that's one of my childhood favorites. And this was going to be the first Neal Shusterman I was reading since Downsiders in childhood. It was a Prince winner. It just had everything going for it. It was really popular on BookTube. And once again, while I did really enjoy it, it just didn't quite reach that 5-star level. I enjoyed the entire series, but I did rate them all at like 4 and 4.5 stars and not quite hitting that 5-star mark. Then after that, I had another one by Neal Shusterman, Dry, that I did not think would be 5 stars. Something about it just didn't appeal to me, and I don't even know why. There was just this, I had a feeling. I was like, this is not a 5-star read. This is probably gonna be a 3-star read. And indeed it was not a 5-star read, but I did want to include it because I was pleasantly surprised by this one. I did like it quite a bit more than I thought I would, and I rated it 4 stars. After that, moving on to the other book that was tied as my top #1 5-star prediction on my TBR tour, we have Lovely War, which is definitely the most disappointing book on this entire list because I did so strongly think it would be 5 stars. It had a similar concept to The Book Thief, which is one of my favorite books of all time. Again, I loved the cover. and just truly had the highest expectations, and it was just the most boring book on this list. It certainly wasn't the worst book on this list, but the biggest disappointment, and it was just so slow and boring. Moving on, after that I have Alex and Eliza. This is another one that I didn't keep. I did not keep Lovely War. I got rid of it because I didn't really enjoy it very much. And Alex and Eliza is another one I got rid of. This is one that I again was a little bit hesitant giving it the 5-star prediction. I mostly gave it a 5-star prediction because Hamilton, but I knew it was much more about the romance, and I'm not like a super romance girly, so I was hoping it would be 5 stars, but was also not super surprised when it wasn't. But I didn't not give it 5 stars just because it was a lot of romance and I'm not a romance girly, but also because the writing was pretty poor. Next, after that, I have another one that was pretty disappointing, and that is Leviathan by Scott Westerfeld. Scott Westerfeld is one of my favorite authors of all time. The Ugly series is my favorite dystopian series. I really love Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld. That's another 5-star read. And I also enjoyed the Zeros trilogy well enough. So I was hoping that this would be another 5-star from Scott Westerfeld for me, but I think it was just a lot younger than I was expecting. I was excited for the steampunk vibes, but they just didn't work for me like I thought they would. And yeah, once again, I have unhauled this one. Next, I have the most recently read of all of these predictions. I just finished this one specifically for this video, and that is The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed. And once again, if the cover is really beautiful, I'm more likely to think it's gonna be a 5-star read. This one, it takes place during the Rodney King riots in the 90s, and so that was kind of an interesting time to me to be reading about. I've not read many books that take place in the 90s, although I am a 90s baby. This one I got an advanced reader's copy of. I won it online, and so it was getting a lot of buzz at the time that I got it because it was just about to come out, but I didn't actually read it right away because I never read any book that I get right away. My TBR is so long. So yeah, this was another kind of tentative 5-star prediction in which the buzz and the cover and the time in which it took place were all kind of intriguing. And this was one of those ones where it wasn't quite on that 5-star level, but I did give it 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. The character work was so good in this one. So yeah, one that I'm not mad at, even though it didn't get that 5-star prediction. But perhaps I was giving out too many 5-star predictions, because like last year, for example, only one new book that I read that I hadn't already read before ended up being a 5-star book. I really don't give out 5 stars that often. Next, I have Breathless by Jennifer Niven. I gave this one a 5-star prediction because Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven was 5 stars for me. I love that book, one of my favorite contemporary YAs. And then also I did really enjoy All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. So she's kind of an author that I'm on the lookout whenever she's releasing new stuff. But again, this one was just so boring. I unhauled it. It was like a summer romance situation on a beach. And beach reads are just not really my thing either, but I was looking past that because Jennifer Niven. But yeah, it just held steady of beach reads for me a lot of times are kind of boring, and this one was that. And then finally, ending on a high note, we have a 5-star prediction that totally lived up to its 5-star prediction. And that is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. This one I gave a 5-star prediction because it had major fangirl vibes, even just how it looks with the green on the spine. And Fangirl is one of my favorite books of all time, and these two just had very similar premises. So I was expecting all of the fangirl vibes, all of the introversion vibes, and it delivered on those 100%. And I also actually liked the romance in this one better than the romance in Fangirl. Although I think Fangirl is still probably more of a 5-star than this one. I mean, they're both 5 stars, but Fangirl just holds a special place in my heart. So yeah, 2 years later, finally, we get to learn how all of my 5-star predictions worked out. Not super well, but like I said, kind of to be expected, because I don't actually give a lot of 5 stars. Like, it has to be an all-time favorite to get that 5 stars. But it was still fun to look back and see how the 5-star predictions worked out. And now on to the quote for today's video, which today I have one from Looking for Alaska by John Green, a 4-star book and a 5-star author. And it goes, "Imagining the future is a kind of nostalgia. You spend your whole life stuck in the labyrinth, thinking about how you'll escape it one day, and how awesome it will be. And imagining that future keeps you going. But you never do it. You just use the future to escape the present." Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.